lights on, since most of us are here.
Yep. And
I'll be here directly.
Don?
Yep.
The Sears Kenmore guy came yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
He replaced the solenoid.
Yeah.
And he fixed the agitator. And he left the solenoid with me. And I wondered if you would like to play with it, or should I throw it in the trash?
You can go ahead and throw it in the trash. I have enough crap to play with.
Okay. I didn't know if you like to take things apart or not. So
I do, but I don't put them back together very well.
Boy, do I understand that. Yeah. Well,
what did you have to have fixed?
When I would turn on the washing machine, the water level, there's a two-part thingy, as they call it, a solenoid, that allows the water to come in at different levels and different temperatures. And mine broke. So I was getting drip, 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 drip instead of
yeah.
Water. It took 2 hours for me to do one load of laundry.
Oh my
word.
Yeah. So it had to be fixed or get a new one. And the new ones that had a 2 rinse cycle, which is something I need, were $1,000. So I decided I'd rather have this one repaired.
That's right.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, good morning.
So it's all fixed.
Morning,
it agitates and it fills, and that's what I need.
Good.
Who was it that said they had a ringer washer yesterday? Was it you, Steve?
No, Phil.
Phil. Ah.
Oh, no, Phil, I don't remember. Anyway. No, Don.
Who amongst us tried to put their hand and arm through the ringer?
I had a ringer washer.
Yep.
My mother did too. From birth until age 6, my mother had my age. My mother had one. And
my grandparents and my parents had a ringer washer and a solar dryer.
Ooh.
Wow.
Solar and wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that until I was about 10 years old, we had an old ringer washer. And I remember because it was down in the basement and our shower was in the basement. And so my mother had a timer on it. So she turned the timer on, and when the timer dinged, we were done with our shower. But it connected to the ringer washer, you know, so that's how you're done with the washing.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
And aren't basements wonderful? I wish we had more of them in Texas.
Yes, they are.
Yes. Craziness. Well, hello, Peggy. She's getting ready, I see.
Hey, Miss Peggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys.
Hey,
Mr.
Don.
Don with the sunglasses.
Yeah,
Oh,
sunglasses day,
sunglasses.
right, Peggy?
Yeah.
Look at you guys.
Maya's got sunglasses on too. Yeah.
Fashion. You guys look great.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, it just hit 10:30, so why don't we do something about this and turn it over to Peggy, huh?
Perfect.
Yeah, I know. I have to turn my head.
Congratulations, Myra and Don. You get the prize for the best costume today.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. Some of our programs are recorded and some are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activities. Today, Peggy Spear from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art is bringing us art from their collection that has to do with sunglasses. And as I see, some of our folks are dressed to kill.
Yeah.
Peggy,
I'll be honest with you, I've got to take mine off because the polarization in my sunglasses does not let me see the screen very well.
You can tell, Peggy, we were excited about this.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad, but I'm going to have to hate to disappoint because one, there are artworks, but there's not much about the artworks that I found. And two, they're all black and white again. So here we are.
It's all right. That's all right.
All right.
I want to tell you, Peggy, I even wrote our grandson, who is on camp up in Washington State, that we were going to do sunglasses today in art.
Well, how funny that this is hitting a good note with all y'all.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Is that Helen Keller?
No. It is a woman who is blind, but it's not Helen Keller. Her name is Mary. At least that's all they can figure out that's written on the back. Mary, they can't, the handwriting is unreadable for her last name. But
So
this is
wouldn't really call those sunglasses then.
Yeah.
What did they call them then, Phil?
What would they be called? She asked the question.
I'm just commenting on the fact that the sunglasses would not help her eyes, and
Oh, that's right.
they would just be shielding them from others' view.
Yes.
I think they were just called dark glasses.
We don't know the severity of her low vision or blindness. It says woman who is blind, so we can assume it's probably total blindness, but working closely with Lighthouse for the Blind, a lot of people wear sunglasses because they are super sensitive to light. Even though they might not be able to see everything, their eyes still are very sensitive to light. And or one of their eyes might veer or be a lazy eye or something. So it's almost to kind of just not cover up, but to give a little privacy to what their eyes actually are doing.
Yeah.
Here we don't know what the sunglasses are, if it's for privacy or for just dampening of light, but I mean, people were doing this over 100 years ago, wearing sunglasses for. Well,
it says she's blind.
Yeah, we don't really with titles like this. If they're in those brackets.
Oh, okay.
That's us assigning a title to it.
Oh, okay.
So that title can change over time. And it said woman who is blind. Some things say blind woman.
Yeah.
That language changes over time. So yeah, typically with blindness, this current practice is saying it's the person first, then their disease second. So or disorder or whatever. So this is a woman who is blind, not a blind woman, if that makes sense. But anyway, we've seen, this is, we've looked at cabinet cards before. This is that time in art history. This is sort of like the gateway to just vernacular photography pictures that we just take to take. The picture is probably about the size of your cell phone. So not huge, but that card size. And she just wanted her portrait made. And often prior to this phenomenon of cabinet cards, portraits were of either when the baby was born or on a deathbed. So this is now people were able to capture just the everydayness of their life. And we've seen the one with the man in the figure skating outfit. That some of them are silly, some of them are a little more professional or more subdued, more classic portraiture. So this is just an example of classic portraiture.
And she's a lovely woman.
Yeah, and it's capturing the likeness of her. I mean, she was able to walk into the studio as she was and wanted to capture who she was. It wasn't this sometimes contrivedness of a portrait that show me holding this book because I'm well read. I mean, this is a little more of what she looked like every single day. Probably she's wearing nicer clothing than she would every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's not just indicative of what class she's in? Basically, do you think she's just got the nice dressed up for this one?
I mean, I can only imagine. We don't know exactly who this is, so we don't know what class she's in or what her socioeconomic was. But like when you go get your portrait, would you wear your t-shirt that you're wearing right now, or would Myra probably tell you, hey, Dawn, put on a button down?
Yeah, Myra might have saying that.
I thought she might. Yeah, so you're typically wearing your nicer things. You know,
Yes.
you might get your hair done. It looks like she has her hair pulled back with a pin. So there is a little bit of your on your best, looking your best, but it's not the one of the two portraits ever taken of you your entire life. This is the look and time for this person. And so like all the other cabinet cards we typically have seen, we've got the advertising at the bottom for this studio in Freepoint, Illinois. All right, so
Peggy, is
Yeah.
there any reason? Is there any reason why they just took her shoulders or her face?
that was
More-
probably her decision, and this
Okay.
studio probably specialized in that, not, you know, in the background drops that we've seen. This might be kind of what made this studio. It was more of that vignette type of portrait versus the some of the gimmicky ones where there's a baby in a scale or the dog on the armchair. So
It's not Olin Mills
it's
No,
not.
it's not Owen Mills.
with the fake flowers and or the library or.
Yeah, this is a little more subdued.
Yes.
Yeah, no props. All right, so we're gonna leave Mary. We're gonna go to a nameless woman from, this is one photograph from a series called Neon. Neon is the name of the series. And we've seen this photographer, Barbara Crane, before. She's based out of Chicago. So what do you see here?
A heart.
You see a heart, okay. With the dots.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna outline the dots because it gets kind of lost in her face. It sort of kicks over her glasses and then moves out to the side. So it's has a couple more bumps than a heart might.
Might be something other than a heart. I don't know.
Say that again.
It might be something other than a heart.
I think it is, but I don't know exactly what.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize.
And we might not. I couldn't find anything that actually identified what this particular image or what the outlines were, but it's neon lights. She's imposing photographs of neon lights on top of portraits that she's taking of just people in Chicago. So we've seen Barbara Crane a few times, but one of the ones we've seen is when the people were leaving the Science Museum in Chicago and they did not know their photograph was being taken. They were leaving those doors.
Oh, yes.
This is another one of those situations where she's taking pictures of people, and I have it's from leaving a department store. You guys will know better than I would. Carson Prairie Scott.
Yes.
Okay.
My aunt worked there for a long time.
Oh, did she really?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are customers leaving that department store in Chicago. So again, they don't know their photograph is being taken. These are a little more intimate. The photographs in the series are all mostly from the shoulders up of just people's heads. And a lot of the people in the series are wearing either glasses or sunglasses. So there's that fashion nod to it. And then, so that's the bottom picture is the portrait. And then she's taken photographs of neon lights and overlaid it. So then there's manipulation in the darkroom of how these photographs are being developed.
It's funny. My first impression was, you know, the background, all those little dots, this game where you can put your hand in and you have the impression of your hand.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Something like that.
So she's pushed her face into something like that.
Yes.
Oh, how cool.
Used to love those. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, and some, you can see some of the bulbs are out, like
Yeah. Yep.
In other, and I don't have the other ones from the series to show you, but some of them are like of the neon lights or of a neon G that you might see in writing for a marquee or something like that. So it's different versions of neon lights, but things that if you were living in a city, you would be familiar with. To me, this felt like one of those like crosswalk lights where you can see the pixelation of every light within that crosswalk, but it doesn't look like that crosswalk icon. I always love when I'm researching and I find things from our curator of photography commenting on things. And he said that his name's John Rohrbach, and John Rohrbach feels that this is the overlay of the neon lights on these shoppers who are leaving the store is a comment on commerce's domination over people. So I thought that was
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I never knew that Carson Pirie Scotts would take pictures of their customers leaving the store. That seems like an invasion of privacy or something, but it's a public place, I guess, so they can do that.
The department store had nothing to do with it.
It was just a photographer.
Yes.
Yeah, so this photographer, when you're on the street, that's public domain.
Yeah.
Street photography was really big during this time because cameras were getting smaller, so people could take pictures and not know their pictures were being taken. And so often street scenes were very popular because that was in an area that was not private, and it was easy to kind of blend in.
Sure.
I remember when Jackie Kennedy used to fight with Galella over taking her pictures in public.
This picture to me, when I first looked at it, it suggested to me that this woman is making a breakthrough of some kind.
Huh.
Ooh.
A break.
What about that? What about it?
I don't know. It just looks like she's coming out of the pattern of dots.
Right.
That's a great observation.
It's 69. The feminine movement was pretty strong, getting started. So you're right. It could be something like that.
She looks 3D and the dots are 2D.
Yeah, exactly.
Why it looks like that?
It doesn't look, unless I told you it was neon lights, it does not look like neon lights.
No, it does not.
The artist went through and just put dots on it. You would not know, especially because it's black and white. You're right. That really does flatten the.
You combine that breakthrough with the heart symbol, and you can take it all kinds of places.
Ooh. You should have been a shrink.
She's recovering from a broken heart. She's moving out of a relationship. Could be all kinds of things to me.
My goodness.
Is that a fist beside her nose?
Here, no, it looks like the plaid of a man's shirt
The back of
walking
someone.
away.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
It's worth looking at. It's worth looking at Barbara Crane neon series because there are others that are different, but similar.
Yeah, so she was a serial photographer. She had a lot of series. So the other pictures of this are men and women with different types of neon lights that she's overlaid, but they're all people that are all consumers, shoppers leaving. And so another thing, because these are neon lights, you're in a city, you're going to be seeing neon lights. Another commentary I read was that these are ceremonial urban masks. So these neon lights are being overlaid over their faces just as part of the city face.
She had a lot to say, didn't she? Barbara Crane.
She sure. Well, those are art historians putting words in Barbara's mouth. So
yes.
So we're gonna leave Barbara. We're leaving our photography behind now. We're gonna move to paper.
Oh.
Pretty simple.
Masky.
But it's a lithograph. It looks like it was hand drawn, doesn't it?
Yes. And tell us again what a lithograph is.
So you're working on a stone and you're using inks and tushes
wow.
to then do it on the stone. And then there's printers who lay the paper on and pull the paper off to extract the image. So here, this artist was, this is Tamarin. We've talked about the Tamarin workshop in LA. He was invited to come in '69. And so he was born in the Bronx. He was a New Yorker, and he came from a white family, but living in a Black neighborhood. And it wasn't until he was much older in life that he realized there are other white people in the world besides him and the Italian ice guy. So he grew up in a neighborhood that thinking that the whole world was Black. And then he moved out. His family owned property or owned apartments in New York and would rent them out. So they were like a landlord type of family. He decided his older brother went to art school in North Carolina and then died suddenly when he was 20 years old, which broke his heart and his family's heart. He was extremely close with his brother. When he got a little bit older, then after he went to Parsons for a little bit in New York City, he decided, I'm going to go to Black Mountain College, where his brother went for art school. Went there, was really good at drawing, and then made his way really through drawing. But you can see here, so again, like with the Tamarin people, artists, they're trying to transfer their one art style to a lithographic stone. So sometimes it translates, sometimes it doesn't. Some artists view it completely as an experiment because they're working with a medium they're not at all familiar with. But all of this was working towards trying to elevate the art of lithography in the United States because it was starting to become a lost art. So anyway, he did a series of still lives when he was at Tamarin. And so he's done an ashtray. He did like a can with artist brushes, just very simple things, but still in the style that he would draw or illustrate. And so it's not shading he's doing. He's using little lines to create form. So you can kind of see the dashes in some places better than others, but that's what he's using to create shape. He's not actually shading. And that was kind of one of his
that's a little like pointillism.
It's not pointillism. He's not dabbing. He's actually just drawing lines.
Lines, yeah. Oh my, that's delicate.
Yeah. And for a lithograph to get that nuancing, it really does look like a drawing. He was able to make that shift.
In order to make this lithograph, he had to take out everything. He had to take everything out that was white, because he had the lithograph would the ink would go on the top of where the lines are, and then it would, anything that didn't have ink on it would be white. Is that correct?
Yeah, so he's working directly on the stone.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it would be right, like if you're just using ink and then the paper were pressed on and pulled off.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Oh, go ahead.
So it's not a reverse process?
No.
No, it's not.
Photograph is not. Yeah, it would be rolled, and so that's during within the Tamarin workshop. There were the artists and there were the printers, and the printers were learning just as much as the artists were on how to pull paper, what different tushes and inks and acetones could do certain things to different colors. So it was just as much of an experiment for the artist as it was for the content of the artist as it was for the mechanics and chemical reactions for the printers, if that makes sense.
They had to do it all together. They had to cooperate.
Yeah.
Didn't we see something else by him?
We might have. I'm not.
Seems like I remember you telling that story.
Well, a lot of the Tamarin artists we talked about, like Ruth Isawa, Kinji Akagawa, there are other artists who, like Ruth Isawa got really close with her printers, and she would invite them over for dinner, and she would give them all dinner, and then they would all go back to the studio and print and create together. So there was like, and then some, like Kinji Akagawa was an artist, but then also became a printer too. So he was in Tamarin for two different stints for two different reasons. So it was a lot of, and we talked about it before, I don't put the printer, even though the printer is just as much an important part of the finished product as the actual artist. So that's a little bit of my misstep. We always put it on the labels in the galleries. If it's a work on paper and we know the printer, we'll put the printer.
Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, the same with like photography too. We don't list typically the printers of photographs. But there are, with our photographers, especially now who are printing digital inkjets, there are certain printers who are really good at what they do, or certain printers that artists go to over and again because of the colors they're using or the scale. So there's, just like anything else, there are people who are really good at certain parts of printing, depending on the medium.
Would you say that Andy Warhol, like if he, for instance, the Maryland series, that would that have a really big thing to do with the people that were laying on the color?
I'm not, so that those are typically silk screens. That's a different process. That's not a lithograph.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I know he had assistants and stuff, so I'm not sure how involved he was with the color matching or things like that.
Okay.
But a lot of these bigger studios, especially with how mass produced some of that stuff Andy Warhol did, I'm sure he had say in final coloring, but I don't think he was there necessarily for all of the color matching.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, that's a different printing process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got one more.
Wow.
Wow. Those are some sunglasses.
That's pretty wild.
Pretty funky, huh?
Yeah.
Wild.
So this is another Tamarin artist, but this artist specialized in lithography. That was his calling. That was his talent. He went and he got his master's at Tulane, and that was when he really started getting good at and getting a name for himself in lithography. And so it was right after he graduated, I believe. This was when he was invited to go be an artist fellow at the Tamarin. I think one of his professors recommended him as a rising talent. And so part of his thesis work when he was and you can see the title, Okina, Tamarin impression, and then his last name, 65 at the bottom. His master's thesis was really focusing on, what did he say? The grotesque as a positive element in art. So he was kind of dealing with macabre themes, things that seemed disturbing or having to do with death, but putting humor on that series, or just highlighting it, as it doesn't always have to be sad and heavy. There can be a levity to these topics. And so this is kind of a freaky goat, but he makes it funny by throwing those sunglasses on it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So this is a goat?
A goat.
Oh, it's a goat. Okay.
Yeah.
My first impression was that it was a spider with teeth on and glasses on. A vicious spider.
Yeah. I was struggling with why it's called Okina.
I couldn't find a reason why he picked that name. And I couldn't find anything about that name. There were some things about it being like a Hawaiian word, or parts of it have Hawaiian roots. He was not Hawaiian. So I don't really know where that name came from, but this goat appeared in his thesis work, from what I understand, and then it reappeared in his Tamarin work. So this was something that he hung on to, or he was working through for quite a bit.
Okay, so I'm looking at Wikipedia, and in Hawaiian language, it means separator, cutting, breaking. I don't know how that, maybe separating or something.
Yeah, so I don't know if there is a Hawaiian tie to it at all. I wasn't able to find that connection in any of the things about Makibi and in this particular print. But a bunch of, again, just like those sunglasses, this artwork too, a bunch of museums throughout the country do have this artwork because it came from Tamarin. A lot of museums collect the Tamarin prints. And he said that I think he taught at the University of Tennessee after he did this workshop at Tamarin. And he ended up dying really early at age 48. He had diabetes. And so he died quick or early at a young age. I think it's with complications tied to that. But he said, great art concerns itself not of art, but with awakening the human consciousness itself. So, not
awakening of the human consciousness. Is that what you said?
To itself.
To itself. Wow.
Bye, folks. We'll see you later.
Bye, Steve.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.
So long.
Bye. As soon as I can get my screen to let me out. Sorry.
Let me out.
Let me out.
This picture almost looks like one of those micro pictures of a bug
No.
taken under a microscope.
Yeah, that's what Yetta saw when she spider dressed up.
Yeah.
I just saw the new National Geographic this morning, and it has a lot of insects or little microbes in it.
I think those pictures are so beautiful.
Very, very excellent. Yes, it looks very nice and interesting.
Kind of remind me of one of those pictures you look at, the psychologist shows you and says, what's the first thing you think about with this?
Rorschach.
Rorschach. Yeah, Rorschach. Yeah.
What I think is kind of fun about this one is while it's very flat, on a very flat piece of paper, the fact that his beard is hanging over the frame of what that, it just feels like he's coming at you kind of.
Yeah, so it's one of his ears or horns or whatever that is.
And the ear too.
Yeah, and the ear, like there's like a sense of like, he's coming for you. I mean, I don't know. It's part of that humor of it, but it just, I don't know. I think it's just fun.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's ugly.
Well,
and beauty is
it's definitely not very attractive. No, it's not attractive.
Not
yeah,
for
we
everyone.
don't all have to like the same thing, Paulette. So this isn't your
don't.
favorite. All right, well, that's our last sunglasses. Next week we are looking at swans. So we have quite a few
swans.
Yes.
Swan. Oh, it won't be ugly then.
Yeah, only beauty with swans. I don't think we have any ugly swans in this next round. But all right, friends. Well, I hope you all stay dry and cool, and I will see y'all next week.
Thank you,
Peggy.
Peggy.
Bye, Peggy.
We appreciate you.
Say that again.
Thanks, Peggy.
Bye.
We sure do. Yes, we appreciate Peggy. Well, let's see what's coming up.
Okay, let's see.
I'll get this one out of the way here. Okay. Oops. Well.
And Nancy's gone.
At least you saved it.
You're wiping it all out.
Share. I hope I saved it.
You clicked the button that said save.
Oh, did I? Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. There was sunglasses with Peggy. As soon as we finish with this, I'll turn off the recording and we'll do Fifth Street Cafe at 11:30.
Cafe.
I will be subbing at 11:30 for Heather today, and we're going to do flashback. And I have added a whole lot of new pictures, and that will be fun.
Oh, good.
And at 1:30, Jeopardy. Anybody wants to show up for Jeopardy?
Oh, my word.
I will be doing Jeopardy as well. Heather's got a couple of days.
You're trying to entertain us too much.
I don't think it's too much. I think it's just right. Kind of like Goldilocks. Is it she the just right?
Yeah, just right.
Anybody have anything to share before we stop with the recording?
Nothing that I would put on recording. No.